your laundry's not going to stay clean either. I can tell you that. But anyhow, after it was all over, what I was able to do, okay, is go over to the highway. This was State Highway 36. And what I was able to do is take a digging bar, and I chipped part of State Highway 36, circa 1962. You're looking at it. Asphalt and concrete. The wire that was the diameter of my pointer finger had enough energy to melt the road surface into glass between 20 and 30,000 degrees of thermal. You can't even do that with an oxyacetylene unit, but that little wire did. It melted the road surface into glass. It's hot. We think 100 degrees is hot, you don't want to cool off. At 20 to 30,000 degrees of thermal. That's hot stuff. My wife loved this thing. I'll pass this around. Pretty nice. Looks like a piece of marble. My wife loved it. She said, boy, I'd like to have our foyer done in that. Well, JPOT put some concrete and asphalt in there. A couple of days. We'd have a nice foyer, but I don't know about the rest of the house. One of the things, when I was with Jersey Central, I kept it in my office as a paperweight. And I told my buddy, one day Ralphie comes in and he says, Al, what is that? I said, well, Al, I was sitting on the porch, it was just getting dark one afternoon, and pretty soon I see this light come across the sky. And over the lot across the street I saw this fire, and the next day I went and picked this up, and I polished it up. He said, you know what that is? I said, no. He says, it's a meteorite. I said, no kidding. Finally, I couldn't do it to him anymore. Here's what really happened. So he tells me, he says, hey, I have a son going to USC, and he's studying geology. He says, do you mind if I send that out with your story? I said, absolutely not. So what he was able to do, he sent it out to USC. And a month later, it came back. Dad, P.S., didn't know they had state highways in the sky. He's getting one heck of an education. I don't know who's teaching him, but the guy's on the ball. See, what I didn't know, that each state has a commodity for road surface for both concrete and asphalt. Did you all know that? I didn't know. But because of weather conditions, there's certain things that they put into the concrete and asphalt. And what they were able to do is say it's not only a piece of highway, but it also comes from the state of New Jersey. I said, whoa, he's getting an education, leaving me. He's doing pretty good. But anyhow, the point of it is, that's what the little wire did. The wire the size of my pointer finger had enough energy to melt that road surface into glass. And that's what we fool with. That's what we work with. That's what we depend on 24/7. And what we have to do is understand some of the basic theories of electricity. And that man in that oil truck gives us one of the most important basic theories of electrical energy. Anybody know what that is? Well, let's take a look at it this way. Our friend was able to sit in that vehicle and be none the worse for wear other than his laundry. Why? Why? It was on tires. I would expect that answer 99, 66, 100% of the time because why? Tires. What are tires made out of? No, they're not. You know what? That's mechanical. Man being a resourceful soul, and during the big number 2, he used up all of the good rubber, the natural rubber. And being a resourceful soul, he took that residual from the crude oil that came from the ground after they removed all the good fuels and lubricants and everything. That gook that's left over, that's what they make synthetic rubber out of. Do you know what it's loaded with if it comes from the ground? Carbon. What's carbon? Conductor. That rubber, those rubber tires are conductors. And then today, to meet safety standards, what do we put in? Rubber tires, rubber boots, and all the rest to meet our safety standards. Steel belts, steel arches, steel toes. Now we've got to rethink this theory, folks. It ain't rubber. Oh my gosh. You know, we use rubber in the power industry. Rubber gloves, rubber blankets, and all the different things to provide us safety for our PPE, etc. But really what we have to understand is that synthetic rubber really is very, very conductive. And that is not the reason why you can sit in a vehicle. In fact, I could care if the equipment that you're sitting in, if it's energized, has steel tracks on it. The tires have nothing to do with it. Here's the theory, folks. We see it every day, but never acquainted with electrical safety. How many times have we driven down the road and we see this crazy bird, bare feet, bare wire? We know the wire's on, all lights are on. That's the theory. You see, our bird is sitting on that wire. And basic to the theory of electricity is you need two differences in potential for current to flow. You see, voltage doesn't kill. Voltage doesn't kill. We can prove that by those birds sitting on a hot wire. But amperage can kill, and not that much. Ampacity, the flow of electricity. That's why we need two sources of different potential to have amperage, to have energy flow, and once that happens, that's when we are in trouble. You see, our friend in the oil truck was like the bird on the wire. As long as he was only touching the truck, he was energized at the same potential. The same EMF, electromotive force. But there was no flow. But if you look at that bird and put him on this wire, and he's looking down, and pretty soon he sees this tree over here, and he sees a caterpillar crawling out on the tree, on the branch. He thinks, oh boy, look at there. Lunch, high protein. So what's he do? He sneaks down, he pecks at that particular caterpillar. Guess what happens? Boom! Now we got more lunch. We got fricassee bird and fried caterpillar. How good it tastes within field dressing. You see what happened? Our friend, that bird, was in good shape when he was only standing on a wire, but when he went to that tree is over 70% water with its root system into the water table. It's an absolute ground. That's the difference in potential. And now that potential and that bird, by standing on that wire, surged through him, and just like that, bang, it took him right to bird heaven. It's over. He bought the farm. Had our friend in that oil truck stepped out of that particular cab, the same thing would have happened. He'd have bought the farm. Because the energy now would have flowed through him from the truck to ground. He would become a parallel path of energy to flow. And the reason why he's a parallel path is because the tires would actually have energy going across the ground. Eventually, if he'd have sat there long enough, and if I'd have taken my time in that trouble truck, that truck would have won a fire. That oil truck would have won a fire. Because wherever you have amperage flow, there would have been enough resistance in those wheels to create heat. Eventually the heat would be enough to set the particular tire on fire. And then you really got an issue. So really getting there fast is important to cut down the exposure that our friend had. That's the theory of electricity. That's the important theory. And I could care less if you're in a crawler piece of machinery with steel tracks on it. I have my friends, actually my cousins, who are in the excavating business. My cousin Mike had a job out in 514 East Amwell. The lady wanted to have him put a circular driveway in front of the house. She didn't want her husband cutting the grass on that hill anymore. So he decided to come in with his loader and actually scoop off the grass, put some stone in there, and then they were going to blacktop. At 7 inches under the soil, he hit a backbone feeder primary that the power company had put in. You see, what happened is when that development was built, there was a large drop-off. But the lady would not buy the home until it was regraded, reseeded. So what they did is they cut that hump out. But when they did, what they did is they reduced the amount of distance between the surface of where the wire, the direct buried wire, was put in the ground. When he went through there with his particular machine, he welded the pistons on that machine. He had to get them cut off to move it. He also had to go to the laundromat. But anyhow, let me tell you something. So it doesn't make any difference whether you have steel tracks or those wheels. The simple fact is you're suspended is the main issue here. Now today what I've got is our little unit set up here. What I'm going to be able to do is take energy from the floor, 120 volts, and put it through this little transformer right here, and I'm going to kick it up to 15 kV, 15,000 volts. It's the 15 kV that we have outside. The only difference of it is we only have about 60 milliamps. Because if we had more amperage on this thing, when I close it, guess what? Y'all be a lot faster than you think you are. That's where Chubby Guy